Hello, sunshine. This is Joy from Michigan in the US, and today I really hope we're going to finish up this painting. This would be part 4 of this Art 1 series. It's titled The Simple Halloween Painting, and the basis of it is relatively simple, but that doesn't mean it's quick. So let's get started on this last portion. I have my palette knife, I've got my angled brush, and the goal here is to make, and I can't see my camera, so make this portion of the painting look like the rest of the background. I intentionally left that part blank when we started because I didn't want, I got paint everywhere. I didn't want there to be too much texture in the actual cat silhouette. So now I've moved my painting around and I'm not sure if you, oh good, you can still see me. Okay, one of these days I'll have a camera guy or something. So we're just going to go ahead and, same thing we did before, add some texture, add some lines. And if you take your palette knife and you kind of load up just one side of it, let's see if I can show you this. See how there's just that bead of paint there? Then you can, rather than using it flat, you use it as at an angle, and you'll get a thinner but still nice thick painted line. So I'm going to do that again with my phthalo blue, which now has a little bit of extra colors in it. And again, if you need to move your canvas so that it's at the right angle for you. And I'm intentionally doing this nice and thick because I want the texture in my background. So I don't know if you can see that line, that thin line. That's because I held this at an angle instead of flat. So adjust your palette knife as needed to get different brush strokes. Palette knife strokes, I should say. Because you're not really getting brush strokes with a palette knife. Kind of liking those little thin red lines. Let me add a few more of those. It's kind of hard to get close to the silhouette but not actually touch it too much, so just do your best. You could also be wiping this off, your palette knife off, on a paper towel. That works very well. I've done that several times. I just didn't grab any today, so I don't have any handy. And as you're doing this, I'm going to stand and just kind of look at the overall painting and make sure that what you're seeing that you're doing today lines up with what you've done before. So you may want to, like I am, go into other areas and add a little more lines and definition just because you want it to look cohesive. I have found over the years that I paint very differently as far as texture and process and just my brush strokes even from one day to the next. So if that's the case for you, that's okay. Just when you come in and you add in this little bit of extra here, look at the overall painting and see if you need to do the same thing in other places just to make it flow a little bit better. And maybe you don't have that issue, and that is wonderful. If you don't have that problem, then hip hip hooray. You won't have to go back and redo what you've already done. I've actually found when I do a drawing, I don't like to spread it out over too many days because it just doesn't have the same look from one day to the next. So. All right, so the colors that I put on today look a little bit brighter. Bring this over here. And that's just because they're so wet. When they dry, they'll be more like this corner down here. So don't let that concern you. If you notice a difference in the brightness, that's okay. That's normal. The colors will deepen as they dry. All right, 2 more things, and then I think Nope, I lied. 3 more things. Okay, so I want to add some of this glitter. I've got this one, which is blue to yellow, and then this one's green to red. And I think I'm gonna go with this one. I don't know that we need the red in the glitter. So this is fairly thick, and you could just add this to your paint if you want earlier in the process, but I prefer to do it this way for this particular painting just because I only want to add spots of it. I don't want it through the whole painting. Which brush? I'm trying to decide which brush to use. Let's start with this one. All right, so I'll get some on my brush and then I'll show you guys what it looks like because it's just really cool. You see how shimmery, shiny? If my camera would focus, that would help, I'm sure. But it's all sorts of glittery. So it's just fun. It's not anything that you would have to do. And it goes on white, but it dries clear. So keep that in mind as you just add just a little bit of sparkle here and there. And if you don't have this product, that's okay. Skip this step. No big deal. I'm trying really hard not to put this in wet paint because I don't really want to mix it with anything. It's a little bit hard to see on my palette because, oh, that was wet paint. Because it's white on white, but all right, I'm gonna add some of this in my moon, and I'm gonna do it more like just over it, just kind of brushing it over. There'll be some extra shimmery shininess to it, which I kind of love. I've always said I'm not a girly girl, but then I do stuff like this, and I guess I kind of am. So one other thing that that I'm not necessarily gonna spend a whole lot of time on, but that you could do if you wanted to, and that is to take a little bit of white. I'm gonna put it right where that glitter was because I don't mind a little bit of glitter being in this. Oh my goodness, my white's a mess. Okay, a little bit of my white. Oh, let's just, oh goodness. Look, that even fell in the paint. You see what happens when you're moving too fast? I can't tell where it fell though, so I think we're okay. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of glitter to my white. A little more. All right. So I don't have to clean my brush because it was just in the glitter and I'm adding glitter to this anyways, so all is well. So when this dries, it'll have a nice glittery, shimmery shininess to it. So all I want to do is go in and add some little highlights, which is going to be really challenging to do without getting my hands in the paint. But we're going to try. Try to find a spot where I can put my finger down and have it be okay. All right. I feel like this is too much paint. Let me switch brushes. Let's switch to our liner brush. Might be a little bit easier. And I am kind of rolling this in the paint so that it keeps a finer point on the end of it. So if you, goodness sakes, guys. Okay, give me just a second because I got paint on my floor and I need to clean it up. I'll be right back with you. Good thing I'm not on carpet. That cleaned up really easy. Okay, so if you roll your liner in your paint color instead of swiping it back and forth, you'll keep a finer point on the end of the liner brush. Okay, so all I'm going to do, I really hope you guys, I think you'll be able to see this. All I'm going to do is just add in a little highlight on the very edge. I still feel like I've got too much paint. So if you feel like you have too much paint, just wipe it off either on your palette. I use just my hand. And if this part is not as intimidating, I guess, to me, if you get too much white, which I definitely did, but because it's white, we can go in with our black and thin that right down. I'm gonna add a little bit up here. Just a little bit of a highlight on the kitty. I hope you guys can see this. See, I need to hire a cameraman. All right, I'm gonna get just a little bit of paint, twirl it so that it comes to a point and it's not super flat. And then I'm going to try to hold my camera and paint at the same time. So just taking my brush right where the moon would hit it, all the way up that ear. And that's a little bit thicker than I wanted it and a little bit heavier, but I can thin it down with black. So, dun, 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 dun. There we go, a little highlight there, and then I'm gonna do the same thing on the body. I'm not gonna hold my camera now because I feel like I'll drop it. Now, because the moon is here, I'm not gonna go all the way down the body. It's just gonna be this shoulder area here. Add a little bit of a highlight. That's it. I might even, right on the edge of the tail here, a little bit of a highlight. And again, don't worry at this point if the highlight is too thick, we're gonna fix it. So it's okay. Don't stress yourself out. We're gonna go back into the black, and I'll see if I can hold my camera again because I feel like that gave you guys a pretty good view. Ooh, my black is kind of drying up a bit. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can do two things at once without ruining it. So I'm gonna take my black and I'm just gonna thin this down. So it's gonna look like I put in this super thin highlight, and it's really not all that thin. I just went back and covered up what I didn't want. And you can see the texture's giving me a little bit of an issue because the line doesn't want to match up when you have texture there. I'll just work with it. The wonderful thing is the highlight doesn't have to be even. This animal has fur. So if it's a little uneven, and I apologize, I am not holding my camera super steady. I'm gonna put it back like it was so that you guys don't have to deal with my wiggle. So same thing here, I'm just gonna come in with my black and cover up some of that highlight so that it's just what it's supposed to be, a highlight, and not taking over the whole side of the cat's face. I feel like this needs to come down even more. So because of the angle of the face, there would be less of a highlight here where it's curving down. So I'm just gonna thin that just a hair more. There, and then same thing over here. We're just gonna make ourselves look like we had the smoothest touch and put the smallest little highlight in there. All right. I don't want to take much out on the tail here. I actually kind of like the extra thick highlight there. Take this ear down a little bit because it is a little thick. I hope you guys are really enjoying this assignment. I've had a lot of fun with it. I always enjoy this type of art. These silhouettes I really enjoy. They're just a lot of fun. All right, I'm gonna see. This tip of this ear needs a little something. Just stuck my finger in wet paint. Okay. And then go back in with my black. Oh heavens, guys, I've got dropsy today. Not a good thing to have when you're trying to do the detail work on a painting. All right, I think I'm gonna leave that. It's a little fuzzy, but I kind of like that. All right, and then if you see any other places that you think, man, that needs a highlight, feel free to add it there. Don't forget to wash your palette knife. I did the other day, forgot to wash it and it sat out here and dried, and then it's harder to clean. Not impossible, but harder. All right, we have one last detail to add, and that is whiskers. If you did not do a cat, you may be skipping this step. This paint over here is wet, so I'm just gonna do one side to show you guys. And then once this dries, I'll add the other whiskers, and then I will take a picture and put it at the end of this video. So I use Sharpie. This is just a journaling pen, art pen. So this one's got a little bit of a thicker tip. I'll uncap them both and show you. So you don't want the thick Sharpie, you want a thin. The actual Sharpie here is probably too thin for this painting, so I will be using my journaling pen. And you can find these types of pens at any art supply store. All right, so in order to do this without sticking my hand in the part that's already painted, I'm going to turn it. All right, so the whiskers are going to be, this side's going to be more fun anyways to show you, because, here, let me back this up. I need to be out of my little paint puddles because I'm going to get it all over me. Okay. It's gonna be easier to see the whiskers because they've got the moon behind them. All right, where can I put my fingers, guys? I need to be able to balance my hand. All right, here goes nothing. It does, I've noticed these do not always work great on paint. So sometimes you have to go in more than once. So just be aware of that. If it takes several, yep, that one's not wanting to write. Let me get a piece of paper. Sometimes the paint builds up on the tip of the pen. So then I just take a piece of paper and start writing. Well, this pen's almost dead. That might be part of the reason I can't get it to write very well. There we go. This cat's going to be extra whiskered because I always feel like everybody does 3. So I'm just going to try to do some lighter ones and smaller ones. All right, so there we go. Our little kitty has some whiskers. It's kind of fun. And this side is wet. That all there is wet. So I'm gonna let this dry. I will throw on some more whiskers on the other side. I won't necessarily videotape that, but I will show you the finished product at the end of this page, end of this video. And I will sign it and I will show you how I do that. And then I'll put the finished picture at the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one and had some fun with it. And I will see you on the next one. All right, guys, here is the finished painting. I apologize. I had a family emergency come up and was unable to finish it until a couple days later. So it was not posted when I expected it to be, but here we go. So there's the other whiskers. I did come back and thicken these ones up just a little bit because these ones went on a little thicker than I wanted. So I wanted to even those out so they looked similar. And I did add some little highlights on the top of the post, on the fence there, and then a little bit there and there. Not as much because you wouldn't have as much of the light hitting there. And then this is the signature I did. So I meant to video it and I didn't, but I'm kind of fiddling around with coming up with different signatures that take up less space. So this is just my initials. So you can do that, or you can sign your name, or first name and last initial, first initial, last name, however you prefer. But I like to keep mine small so they don't take away from the painting. So the glitter turned out really nice. It depends on what angle you look at it, how it looks. So let me see if I can. It really looks white on this video, but in real life, it doesn't look quite as white. So this one does, it's a little bit thicker, but you can see when you turn it, you kind of tell, it looks different based on how you're viewing it. That one there maybe is a little easier to see. So I'm happy with this. I probably would have done a little more work had I had the time, but I'm gonna call this one done, and I will post some pictures at the end of the video. Thanks so much, guys.